All right, another week. Excited to get back to it. Guys had a good day of prep, but just want to again take the time to thank our fans at Autzen. I thought they were unbelievable this week. Obviously, very excited to play Oregon State. They've had some success these first couple weeks. Done a really good job running the ball. I think they're a really well coached team. The guy playing quarterback has done an unbelievable job. We actually watched a lot of his film before because he was at Idaho. So super athletic. Their run game's really good. Defensively, like they've always been since I've been here, really sound and create some tough looks. So it's going to be a fun challenge for us.
Started on the left with Eric.
Kind of touched on the end there, but Trent now being the head coach, what stood out maybe kind of game planning for him in the past in terms of the defense and kind of him in his position?
I think they still have a lot of a similar identity to what they've been as a team there in the past. They're willing to get big and run the ball. They play sound when it comes to defensive play. They still take shots down the field. They're pretty creative in their package at times. So a lot of similarities to what you've seen there in the past with certainly some of his new flavor in there.
Right here on the right.
Coming out of spring ball, I think a lot of guys were excited about Jay Harris, but we haven't seen him get any touches yet. So how's his adjustment been, and what have you seen from him lately?
Yeah, Jay's working his tail off. He's doing an unbelievable job for us. And I know when his time comes, he'll be able to do a really, really good job. But he's practicing really hard. I think he's continuing to create roles for himself, and hopefully that gives him an opportunity at some time to be out there on the field for us.
Back right, Aaron.
Going back to Giovanni, he only has one sack on the year so far. What are your thoughts on his playmaking ability and his ability to extend plays and escape pressure so far this season?
Yeah, like I said before, watching him, it's really kind of the second time we watched him this year because we watched a lot of his film, going into our first game. And he's really elusive. He's really athletic. He throws the ball well. He's a good player. So I think he definitely does a good job avoiding pressure. He's gotten a lot of scramble yards in the past. They don't necessarily they run the ball just as well as they throw it, right, at Oregon State. There's not throwing it every single down, but he's a guy that when he does have an opportunity to throw it, he throws it well. So certainly presents some unique challenges.
Front left, James.
Which one of the offensive line combinations graded out best and will be the way to go going forward?
It's interesting. There was positives and negatives to really each group, and I think that a lot of people will look at our offensive line and talk about, well, this is the best. We actually watch every single clip on our staff, and I don't know if people realize, like Pancho, he started at three different positions for us last year. We were a really good O-line, but he had more snaps at right guard than any other position he's had snaps at here. Also played some center for us. Also played some left guard. So across the board, we'll continue to work to figure out what's the best group, knowing that it might not just be one group that plays, along the offensive line for us. And until people get healthy, it may continue to look different. We're going to have to keep challenging ourselves to figure out what that looks like. I do think we found some highlights, at times of guys looking well, but, had some lowlights at multiple positions, and didn't matter necessarily what position a guy was at. There was mistakes at all of those. But I promise you, nobody looks at it closer than we do. Right, we spend a lot of time and effort looking at it, and we see every single rep at practice, which everyone else doesn't see. So we'll keep evaluating it. We've got guys that we can play winning football with, and that's the big key, is making sure we're able to utilize those guys.
On the right, Chris.
Yeah, with this game now moved to September and not being a conference game, does it still feel kind of have that same rivalry sense to it going into this week?
It certainly does to me. I think the rivalry is something I always appreciate. I think that makes it college football fun. I think those things are a lot of fun, and this is a game that's had back and forth for us. Year one we weren't able to pull it out. Last year we were, but this is a fun game for the state of Oregon. It's certainly a fun game for our players. I think they know exactly what it means. It means a little bit more. Is it another game? Yeah, it's another game. Is it important for us? It's very important for us. Our guys want to go out there and have success.
Back left, Matt.
Rotating along the offensive line isn't unusual, but the center is across college football. What makes you comfortable? Why rotate at that position when it normally doesn't happen?
Give ourselves the best chance to win, right? I mean, we rotated it last year, right? So again, we did it last year. It's all best on if our best chance to win is have just one person there the entire game, then we would absolutely do that. But maybe the guy that snaps it the best, if he's also getting blown off the ball, you need to take a look at another option, right? Because there's two things that happen with the center. Yes, it's how you protect, right? Yes, it's how you run block, but it's also about how you deliver the ball back to the quarterback, right? So having some consistency with that as well. If it's just about the guy that blocks the best, right, and it doesn't matter about the QB exchange, then that kind of changes things, right? But it isn't. That's all involved. And we had some miscues with snaps as well on Saturday, which is something that has to be addressed. But it all plays a part into it. And again, if we had clear five, these are the guys, no brainer. That's exactly how it should play, and they were clearly better than everyone else, and that's the way we would roll every single time. And I don't know that there's that consistency yet to figure out, but hopefully we figure out where that falls. We'll keep evaluating it.
Left second row here, Olivia.
With as many sacks that have been allowed so far this season compared to last season and the season before, how do you work on the trust between Dylan Gabriel and the offensive line going forward?
We don't just keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, right? I think we have to continue to adapt, right, to his skill set and also to our players here. And there's certainly some similar schemes that we're using this year that we used last year as well. But it's also one of the things when you put it on film and somebody takes advantage of it, they're going to continue to find ways to attack it. So we have to challenge ourselves to do some things differently schematically and change some of those things. To reassess that. We already knew the pocket would look a little bit different because Dylan operates in the pocket a little bit different than what Bo operates in the pocket. It's a different picture. So we see that. It's showing up on film. It's something we have to be able to coach and address and adjust.
Back middle, Brett.
Coach, what's the biggest difference you've noticed in Trent Bray's coaching ability and the differences between him and Coach Smith and what you've faced over the last couple of seasons?
I don't know that there's enough of a sample size, based on their game with Idaho State and San Diego State for me to be able to say this is where they're polar opposites or not. And like I said, I think a lot of the what you see on film, you see a team that's very similar to some of the things that they've done in the past.
Left here.
Wondering what you saw from Nishad on tape.
Yeah, some good, some bad. I thought he did some really solid things. We also had a penalty, not getting set on a play, created a shift, and if you walked away with anything big from the game, I think what I noticed for us offensively is when we had a negative play or a penalty, right, those drives didn't lead to scores, right? So that's where it really starts, right? Defensively, when we give up an explosive play, a lot of those drives did lead to scores. So if you can look at it really simple, those are the things that we have to attack and improve on. But Nishad had some real positive plays and then had some plays that he could definitely be better at as well.
Back right here.
Oregon leads the FBS in pass breakups after week 2. What are your thoughts just on the secondary and how well they've come together so early in the season and how they can help you on Saturday?
Yeah, I think that our guys have done a good job on contested catches and 50-50 balls, avoiding, deep balls over their head. I also think that it's only going to get more and more challenging for us as the year moves on with some of the guys that we'll get the opportunity to play against. So good opportunities so far and taking advantage of the ones we've gotten. I think we're playing tight in coverage. At times, I think that showed up, for us on Saturday, but there were some plays that we could have been better for sure. So that experience is going to help us throughout the season for sure.
Front left, James.
For nearly 3 years now, Dan, you've talked about if you're good enough, you're old enough. And you said that in reference to the O-line Saturday night. There aren't a lot of particularly young guys outside of Poncho. You mentioned played quite a bit. So is the door open to whether it be Janoris or Shaq or Trent? Do you want them to get first-team looks? Is that what you're alluding to, that some of those freshmen could also get looks in this?
If they're ready for it, I don't know that any of those guys right now have earned that opportunity in practice. It would show up in practice first. Those guys are all getting better. Janoris has certainly been really close, and there isn't a huge separation gap, right, from top to bottom right now for our group. But if those guys earn those opportunities, absolutely. Do I think that's going to happen this week? Not necessarily.
Back left, Matt.
How much what happened a couple years ago at Oregon State and the way they came back and won is a motivating factor for this week? Do you address it to talk about it, or is it just part of the rivalry?
Yeah, we know about it. We're familiar with it, and certainly it's something that I think about frequently.
Left, here.
Boise did a good job kind of containing Tez in the passing department. What do you think they did, and how do you try to get him more active against Oregon State?
Well, I think that if teams playing us, they're going to try to find ways to do that, right, to take away Tez. But the thing that's a positive is that there's other explosive players around Tez, and we were able to take advantage of some of those, right, the other night. So that'll always be, part of the game. But if they're taking somebody else away, then that gives an opportunity to an Evan Stewart or Trayshawn or our tight ends to be able to take advantage of.
Back middle, Brett.
Coach, with 2 weeks now of film, what do you think some of the issues in your eyes are going on with the offensive line? Do you think it's communication? Do you think it's just not reading the defense? Do you think it's just chemistry? I mean, what have you been able to kind of?
Just the
point
things that I alluded to right already, as far as negative plays, and some of all the things you mentioned can be a part of that.
Middle left, Eric.
What stands out to you on tape with Griffin and Hankerson for OSU?
Yeah,
Dynamic runners.
Yeah, run really hard. They do a good job of being patient, and then the explosive when they get the opportunities. They're a duo stretch team, and they have a lot of success with it. The guys break tackles, so really patient runners that are able to hit a burst when the hole creates itself.
Front left, James.
Whether it's in the receiving game or in special teams, obviously speed came in a huge way this past week, and against a lot of teams it will. How much do you want? Obviously, with that kind of weaponry, you want to steer into that, but do you want to rely on it? Like, how heavily do you want to rely on it, Dan? Where obviously when it can be a mismatch and advantageous, absolutely. But you, I'm guessing, would prefer not to be in disadvantageous situations where you need it to be the big special teams. You need to count on it. So how much do you want that asset to be a focal point of this team and a part of the identity?
I always want to focus on special teams, and I'd love to be able to win games because of special teams. I don't want to say, well, it's not important because this other part's more important. Do I want to score as many points as possible when we're on offense as well? Yes, but if we get an opportunity to have returns in special teams game, like that's awesome. We should not coach it less for it not to happen.
Second row left, Olivia.
Not sure if you got the chance to sit down and watch Bo's debut, but what were your thoughts on that?
I didn't get a chance to watch it. Was able to follow some notes, but I saw his post game comments, and I know how hard Bo works. I know how much he competes. It sounds like it was a tight game down the stretch, and maybe had some early adversity. But I know how he responded to that. I mean, he had some early adversity in his first game here, and then turned into a hell of a player for the Ducks. So I know he'll do the same thing for the Broncos.
Back left, Matt.
What's made Derek Harmon such a good player at getting to the pass rusher? It seems like every game he's making plays there.
Yeah, he's explosive. I think one of the best things about Derek is he studies his own game really well. He's the kind of guy that you can ask him afterwards, okay, what do you need to improve on? And he can give you answers, right? He's very consistent in his approach and what he attacks. He wants to be coached hard. But he's one of those guys that after the game, he can tell you exactly, hey, this is where I need to improve. And that means he studies well, right? And it matters to him. So big guy, right, that moves with speed, right? He can be somebody that can really affect the opponent.
Oh, yeah, for you, Coach.
All right, appreciate it.
Coach.